cheaper shops, it could cost up to 150 crore rupees. Then adherence to quality is very critical. A mistake can cause an aircraft crash, leading to large number of casualties. If there is a small mistake in the maintenance of an aircraft and it crashes after the takeoff, assuming that there is 80% load factor, 180 is the capacity of Airbus, and roughly the same for Boeing 737. I am talking about narrow body aircraft. It will be roughly 150 people on board, and everybody will perish. So mistakes are very expensive. That's why quality is very, very critical. I have talked about this because if there is a car accident, it doesn't make the headlines. But the moment there is an aircraft crash, or even some two aircrafts come between, say, 300 meters of each other, it will make headlines in the newspaper, national newspaper. So industry is very closely tracked. In fact, in our industry, we get calls from media people. We heard that something happened and all that kind of thing. So you have to be very, very careful. Apart from it being very, very important and critical for the lives of the passengers. Then this was the commercial aspect of the MRO. Now, technical and financial, a little bit. Boeing 737 average about 600,000 parts, 6 lakh parts are there. And not a single screw is manufactured in India. No part is manufactured in India. Every part has to be imported. Those youngsters who are there, you should think about this. We think we are very, very high tech and this and that. We are nowhere in terms of manufacturing of this kind of things. Only qualified, licensed aircraft maintenance engineers can work on the aircraft. Let me give you an example. If there is, some part of the aircraft is to be repaired, an aircraft maintenance engineer with 2 or 3 or whatever number of technicians he needs, he works. But after completion, there is something called as a task card. There he has to write what part number has been repaired and replaced and not replaced. And then there the task card, names of the technicians have to be written, and the aircraft maintenance engineer has to sign that I certify that this has been fixed as per the international aviation standards and this is my license number. If some problem is there, that document, it's a thick file, is there, and that person loses, he is suspended or he loses his license. It's that sensitive. And traceability, we call this as a traceability. On an aircraft, any maintenance, everything is traceable. Where the aircraft was maintained, what part, on which day, who did it, which were the people working on what date this was done. All this is traceable, and that's why highly regulated and very, very critical. Due to the tight schedules, a delay of 1 day in maintenance causes roughly 50 lakhs. We just spoke about, I was talking about 10 flights a day or 12 flights a day. Roughly at about 75 to 80% of load factor, an airline will lose 50 lakhs rupees of revenue if the aircraft is delivered 1 day delayed, from the MRO facility. So that is the sensitivity of this maintenance. Now, for those of you who are interested in some layouts, this is just a generic layout. So these, you can see 5 aircrafts lined up there. Just to give you a little bit of technical information, between these wing tips of the 2 aircrafts, it is written how much distance has to be there. From the wall of the hangar, how much distance should be there. So all that is written and specified in the regulation. Below this aircraft, you can see, excuse me, you can see some boxes. Those are all workshops. So all the workshops, the wing repair or the hydraulic repairs, or aircraft consist of lots of composites and aluminium. So composites are very light, but they are stronger than steel materials. Those composite repairs workshops are there. metal workshops are there. There are so on and so forth. So behind the hangar are workshops. Those could be on the side also, depending on the land available. This is an actual picture of an aircraft which is under maintenance inside a hangar. These ladder-like things, and these are called the maintenance stands or docks. And you can see below the wings also there are some docks and everywhere. So technicians stand there to approach the wing, and behind also that portion is not seen. To approach the tail also there are stands. This is a cross section of an aircraft engine. This is not to confuse you, but just to impress on your mind as to how complicated is aircraft engine. So the top one is a diagram, indicative diagram. The bottom one is an actual picture of CFM 56-7 engine. All Boeing 737 aircrafts has CFM 56-7 engines, and that is the largest selling engine in the world. And all these different raid things, and these are all equipment, various components, sensors, and whatnot. Just for your information, there are maintenance programs when the aircrafts are flying. The continuously engine health is being monitored in the US or wherever the data is transferred on the web, and even sometimes these manufacturers tell you that please ground the aircraft, there is a problem in the engine. This is the landing gear. This landing gear folds inside the belly of the aircraft when the aircraft takes off. These are the pictures from the facility where I worked in. This top one is the section of the aircraft where all the inside panels, seats, floor, everything has been ripped apart. And this is how it looks inside. This is the insulation that you can see, and there are some wires and pipes. And in the end, that's the entry to the cockpit. And you can see some floor panels are also open. On the bottom one, the raid aircraft, this was an incident with SpiceJet aircraft at Hubli airport. A buffalo hit the aircraft, and the outer skin of the aircraft was completely damaged in this portion. You can see inside the aircraft. At our facility, we repaired and replaced the skin. It's a very, very complicated, technically skilled job. On the top is a radome. As the aircraft nose, we see this is the radome that covers the aircraft nose. On the right side is the aircraft picture from where the radome has been removed. And inside this radome, there are various equipment. For example, one is the antenna there. On the bottom, there is in aircraft language, maintenance language, this is called as galley. This is where these coffee makers and the food ovens, etc., are kept. Generally, when you enter the aircraft from the door, there are those cabin crew standing, and they are working on something, food stuff and all. So this is that place. So all these sections can be repaired and are repaired at the MRO facility. This is the cockpit. The top of the right side has been removed inside. There is some work being done. You can see something is bundled up there. On the right side is an indicative technician sitting and working on aircraft engine. These are called as engine cowls. And if you remove this, you will see the engine that I had shown you in one of the pictures. So, any questions so far? Am I going too fast?
No, sir, no.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Some of our engineers, youngsters who want to join this field, are there any training establishments or training schools in India who give certification training for the aircraft maintenance?
Yes, sir. There are, I think, about 55 aircraft maintenance engineering schools
Okay,
in India,
okay,
and these are DGCA approved schools.
okay,
Anyone can join after 10 plus 2.
okay,
It's a 4 year course,
okay.
but the problem as of now is that they don't give you any degree.
Oh, okay,
They give you a diploma,
okay.
and after that,
Yeah,
that person has to slog very hard with some MRO or some airline
yeah.
as a maintenance technician trainee.
Okay,
And after, just for your information, that training that he gets in that AME school
yeah,
is a generic training on the aircraft.
correct.
Now, I spoke about Boeing 737 and Airbus A320. You might have heard about Dreamliner and,
Right,
so many other aircraft, Airbus A380, etc.
correct.
Now, he is not qualified to work on any aircraft as of now.
Mhm.
Then, when he joins the MRO,
Yeah.
he joins some team, and then he gets a training for
Oh,
about 2-3 years of training.
yeah.
He is promoted as a senior technician, etc. Then
Right.
he has to sit for a course. It is called a specific course for Boeing 737 or Airbus A320 or any other aircraft,
Okay.
and that course costs about 3 lakhs, 2 to 3 lakhs rupees.
Oh,
After that, he has to pass the exam.
okay.
Then he gets a license. Then he is called a licensed maintenance engineer, and
Oh,
then he can sign the aircraft. He
yeah.
is a junior line. That is the journey. But
Oh,
then, sir, the good part is, I know so many engineers. Of course, they have worked for 15 years. Their salary is 6 lakhs rupees a month.
oh, 6 lakhs.
Yeah. So after about 4-5 years of working on a particular aircraft and getting that skill,
Right.
you earn at least 2-3 lakhs rupees a month. And when you are 20 years experience, you could draw anything up to 5-6 lakhs of rupees.
Oh, very
And you are a hot property because everyone wants an aircraft maintenance engineer who is experienced,
absolutely.
and they are very hard to come by.
I know.
They are a very priced property, sir.
Oh, and then one more doubt. When I come from Vashi towards Kharghar, when I cross
Yeah.
Turbe flyover on the left side, I see some small establishment.
There is.
What is that? Is also a training.
Yes, yes, that is an AME school, but I don't know whether their license is current or approval is current or not. But that's a training school.
Okay, okay. I see one old aircraft also sitting there.
Yeah, yeah, there is an old aircraft there.
Right, right. Okay, right. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So, if there are no questions, I'll move to a real life example. This kind of a thing happens day in and day out in an MRO. So that will help you relate with the global nature of the business, etc. So let's assume that an aircraft has arrived for a C check, one C check at Hyderabad MRO facility, and it has an estimated turnaround time of 5 days. Now, I don't want you to be distracted. The contracts are so tight that when we say we will give your aircraft back in 5 days, if we go on to the sixth day, we have to pay anything between $5,000 to $10,000 as a penalty if the aircraft is not delivered on time due to the fault of the MRO. And I have gone through that kind of contracts when I was working. So it's that sensitive. So coming back, so aircraft has come for a turnaround time 5 days for one C check. And on the third day, the AME, that is aircraft maintenance engineer, finds that a part needs replacement, it is damaged, or it has got worn out or something. And that is 4 o'clock on Friday. The aircraft delivery is on Sunday at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now the part needs to be imported because I told you in the beginning, no part of the aircraft is manufactured in India. We are that backward in terms of technology and manufacturing. A purchase order is immediately released electronically to a supplier in Europe, because these people, what we call as, they work 24 by 7, all 7 days a week, 24 hours. So supplier says, I can give you the part, but the shipment is tomorrow, Saturday. You want to deliver the aircraft on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now you are in a dilemma. You say, no, you ship it today itself. Today is Friday. He says aircraft on ground. This is a standard terminology in airlines and MROs. Aircraft on ground means aircraft is not able to fly. He says 25% of the cost will be more you have to pay. You have no option, because if you don't pay that, you pay $10,000 as a penalty, or $5,000. In addition to that, the airline loses 40 to 50 lakhs of rupees, because just imagine you have booked a flight on an aircraft and the aircraft is not delivered on time at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning. It's not at the airport and docked at the aero bridge. You are going to say, what, this Indigo's quality has gone down. They are no more flying on time. Their punctuality is all in the newspaper. So all that passengers will start saying, So it is that sensitive. You get a lot of flack from the customers. And I'm telling you these things because there is so much goes behind maintenance, and it's very, very critical. It's not that they don't want to give you the aircraft. So you have no option. You say, fine, I am ready to pay 25%. Give me the part. Then the part is ordered and yeah. Now just imagine that the facility is not at the airport. It is somewhere in Hamburg or in Canada or wherever, and it is away on the ground. So after you say yes, do it, then he packs it. He makes a documentation for customs, because he has to come from Germany to India. Customs proof documentation. It is properly sealed. It travels the road distance up to the airport. Then sometimes there is a cooling period. Then he gives it to the FedEx or DHL, because there is no one else who can bring it that fast. So he says, I will FedEx it. So he sends it on. Also, for your information, FedEx also has something called as AOG service. They also charge more money. You say, yeah, put it on AOG basis. So then the part is given to FedEx. They ship it. The part arrives in Mumbai Saturday morning. He has fulfilled his promise, the supplier. But Saturday is a problem. Customs doesn't work completely. They say, we have a thin crew. We have 40% of the people working. It's a holiday today. Then you go and say, in Hindi, as we say, Baba Puta Karo. Then you say, just give me, please. My aircraft is on ground in Hyderabad. So the airline, someone, your agent in Mumbai or someone, you say, somehow you go and sit there in customs and get it customs cleared. The part somehow gets cleared. The agent gets the part, say, assume at 15:30. That's also very fast by any customs standard. Let's not blame on the Indian customs, because all customs all over the world are the same. So 15:30 is very fast. You get it. That is 3:30. And but the problem is, you have part in hand. It's Saturday 3:30, and you have to give the aircraft at Sunday morning 8 o'clock. The MRO facility is in Hyderabad. So what you do, you see what is the next flight available. So there is an unwritten rule between airlines and MROs, and they know each other because they are customers for MROs. The part sometimes is handed over to the pilot. They say, please, we will send someone at Hyderabad airport. You please take it, and they will collect it. Or in the worst case, you fly a person from Mumbai to Hyderabad with the part. He reaches there, if you are lucky, at 5 o'clock, 1700 hours. You have only 15 hours in your hand. He rushes to the MRO facility. The team works throughout the night, and the aircraft, after all this, the aircraft has to be run the test, because sometimes, let me tell you, when you do a full test, something else is found not working. Then again you have a problem. So you run everything, and if you are lucky, the test is done probably at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning, and you tell the airline, we are rolling out the aircraft at 8 o'clock in the morning. It will be on the stands at the airport. So this is the complexity of the MRO business. Now I would like all of you to just think what all is involved in this simple example of getting that part from Europe to Hyderabad and delivering the aircraft to the customer. There are very tight contracts. in terms of contracts management and contracts writing and legally binding clauses in the contract, there are very stiff penalties. The airlines are ruthless. They will impose the penalty. Why should not they? They lose the revenue. So that is there. Then there is logistics. So now let me go to the next slide and see, can we call this air aviation business as a global business? Does it qualify to be a global business? Let's see. So we have seen global procurement of parts. A part at Hyderabad was purchased from Hamburg, flown in, all kinds of logistics was satisfied by road, by air, customs of two countries, rules, everything satisfied. The part arrives in Hyderabad. Purchase orders, since long, the purchase orders, not only after Amazon, have been being given to the airline aviation suppliers all over the world on the internet, and the payments are also transferred on the wire. Sometimes the supplier says, first you send me the money. Once I see the money in my bank, then I will ship it. So that also happens. Now, you know why all this is being done? Because we don't have the capability in our country to do this. We don't have in terms of, in case of parts, we don't have the parts manufactured here. Some parts are stored here by someone, but then we are all business education people. If you store the parts, you have inventory carrying cost. How much can you store? The airlines don't want to carry inventory. MROs, they don't know which aircraft will come and which, out of the 600,000 parts, they don't know which part will go bad. Why should they carry inventory? So that's why the part they don't keep. Only critical parts they keep, which takes very long lead time to get the shipped from anywhere else in the world. So leveraging cutting edge technology across the globe in terms of logistics, global logistics, we have already spoken about. Within 12 to 14 hours, you get it. In fact, if you wanted something from South Bombay, you may not actually get it within 12 to 14 hours. We are that bad. Then super efficient global supply chain that we have seen, internationally certified components. Now, let me tell you about this component overall. As I said, that facility, I think Shreyas asked about the molded tires. Just imagine there is a servo motor which has to be, an overall servo motor has to be brought from, say, France or the US. That facility has to be approved by the EASA, International Aviation Safety Agency, and that facility, you can buy the parts only from that facility, and every part carries a certification as to when it was overhauled, who overhauled it, and how much life it has. So all those documentation has to be there with the certified components. That comes with the component. You certify that before you put it on the aircraft. So certification of the components and the technology skills are involved. Of course, to do all this manufacturing or repair or overall all these parts, you need high-tech machines, high-tech equipment, requiring millions of dollars of investment in each of the workshop. Imagine 10,000 parts being overhauled all over the world, and there is no one in the world who does every part. There is a excellent, beautiful network of these workshops which is existing, and the MROs get parts from them. Then long-term contracts with complex provisions are involved, and foreign currency hedging. I know I'm not going to get into all these details because if I have an opportunity later on, then I can elaborate on each and every aspect of global business. So leveraging technology, logistics, long-term contracts, hedging of finances, foreign currency exchange, utilization of the skills and capabilities all over the world. Also, there are MROs who have facilities all over the world. So what they say, if there is a customer from India, they will send you your part or your aircraft. You have to put the aircraft there. They will send nearest to India. So your flying time is less, and they also fill their MRO facility. So this is what makes, I think, qualifies aviation MRO qualifies as a global business in terms of the fundamentals of global operations. I think this is the last slide. Yeah. Thanks for listening with patience. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Hello?
Students, any questions?
Shall I stop presenting?
Yes, sir.
Let me see how to do it.
Stop sharing, you can do so.
Yeah, I will do that.
Over to students for any questions. Murthy sir? Sankalp sir, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, ma'am. I think, students, if you don't have any questions, then it is a very interesting topic on which Sir has briefed all of us, because we never care for all these terminologies and all that.